My role specifically is being the biggest cheerleader and your best friend. I will quote that. That's like exactly how I think of every day when I walk into Jefferson Health Training Center. That's exactly what I'm thinking is like, how am I, one, making a difference? How am I, two, you know, setting myself up for success to make sure that my participants and my fundraisers can have the utmost best event.
Welcome back to Blog Access 101. I'm your host, Rob. Remember to subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify by searching Blog Access 101. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is episode 302. I'm here today with our special guest, Makayla Brant, the Philadelphia Eagles Foundation peer-to-peer fundraising coordinator for History Month. How you doing, Makayla?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you this morning?
Keep the plane. Never can love Monday mornings, but I was definitely excited for this interview. But just give us a brief introduction of who you are, where you're from, what you majored in, and your current job title.
Yeah, so my name is Makayla Brant. I am a peer-to-peer fundraising coordinator for the Eagles Autism Foundation. I've been in my role for about 2 years now, just working alongside all of our Eagles Autism Challenge participants. I grew up in Spring City, Pennsylvania, which is in the suburbs of Philadelphia, about 45 minutes out of here. As you can tell, I haven't gone very far. Went to school here at Salle University with a degree in communication and a minor in marketing. And then, obviously you can tell I've been able to stay put here in Philadelphia because I just absolutely love this city so much.
Love to hear it. Go Birds. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Full-time homer. How'd you like going to LaSalle?
Oh, LaSalle University was just such a wonderful experience. When I first had arrived on campus, I was told, from one of my counselors, they said, this is a small school, but, you have a huge personality. I think you'll do great here. And obviously, like now, all this time later, 4 years after graduating, I can completely agree with her. It was a more, definitely a smaller school with only around like 12 kids to the classroom. And I felt that you could actually make relationships with your professors and, just having more of that small class size. Like I think one of my classes had ended up being only 6 people. And it was so nice. Yeah. Because you get to, I think a lot of my life, I like to make relationships and just those friendships that are going to hopefully last a lifetime. But that was honestly it. And then, I have great friends that I've met there that I still talk to really to this day. So I feel very lucky to have gone to school there and really jump-started my entire career.
Nice. Yeah, those college friends definitely essential. Those ones, they always say last forever. So can you tell us about your journey working in nonprofit work and what led you to the Eagles Autism Foundation?
Yeah, so in the past, I worked at this nonprofit. It's called Variety Club Camp of Delaware Valley. And I was a one-to-one essentially with I was essentially doing autistic support, just being a one-to-one, being their go-to, supporting them in the classroom, and then supporting them in other ways, whether it be going to the sensory room, swimming, schoolwork, because instead of going to an extended school year program, they came to this camp. And that's really where it all started. I wasn't really as well aware and well versed in the nonprofit world at that time, but I did slowly, obviously get more of a knowledge when I was working there. I then worked at the Philadelphia or I shouldn't say Philadelphia YMCA, but I guess it is kind of, but it was the branch in Limerick. And I was working as like their head classroom, like teacher essentially. And it was during the summer. So I had like a classroom full of 8 individuals that had an abundance of needs. And it was really, it was very fulfilling to be able to be in that room and to lead it. And then also enact change into what they could really build that program out to be. So, and then really after that, I was more into the sports production world. I was doing content creation, all you can think of with a camera was what I was doing. And I ended up getting a role here at the Philadelphia Eagles as a marketing associate. And I basically got involved with the foundation by working alongside in their all abilities clinics, supporting them there, and realized I was like, wow, this is everything I've really been doing over the past, X amount of years. And I, ended up applying to our role here that they had when they had an opening. And I mean, the rest is just, it's history. It's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, because I always try to wonder how people like get into sports. I'll tell my student a lot of times. Sometimes you just get your foot in the door, and then it might not start off where you want to be at. But luckily, you were able to start off where you wanted, and then you found your other passion, which was dealing with autism. Yeah, sometimes you just get your foot in the door. Get people to build those relationships you talked about earlier, and then that can get
That's
you
the
to places
biggest
where you want to
part.
be. Yeah, because once
That's
you
the biggest part.
yeah, because people think sports is just like it's like this real big round, which it is, but it's like everybody knows everybody. And like if you have good relationships, they can easily one person can make a call here or here. And that's what I tell my students all the time. But they think it's like, oh, like it's just like this one big thing, but it's like, nah, it's big, but it's like really one small family.
I was at Salle University. I was a freshman. I kid you not. I started school in August, and by November, I was already working for the athletics department. And it might have been like the most minuscule task, whether it be doing outreach during lunch period to like have people come to our basketball games because basketball was our main sport. And it was either I was sitting there with one of the full-time staff just handing out tickets. I tried to really make a name for myself when I was, an itty bitty freshman. And like I said, that was only 3 months into me being on campus. And I'm like, you should come to the game. You should come to the game. You should come to the game. And the turnover rate might have not been great, but it was still, building that bridge of connecting with the other students, even if they were 4 years, 3 years older than me. It was still like I just went there. I took the time out of my day during my lunch period when I could be eating with my friends, but instead I was like, this is really just the building blocks of where my career could be.
I'm glad you brought that up. I saw when I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, I was like, oh, she was doing everything. Like, it was like giveaways, ticket sales, marketing promotions. I was like, and then event
You
art.
know it.
She were the jack of all
You
trades. But that's how it's supposed to be, especially when you like starting off. Because a lot of these jobs look at like, okay, you said you want to work in sports. When they look at your resume or CV and see like you didn't do anything at the university you was at. It's just like, do you really want to be in sports, or are you doing it because it sounds good? That's what try to tell some of my students. Is like you guys looking for internships everywhere else, when like you can really just start at the university at. You don't have to worry about traveling or and it's yeah, and it's right there, and it's like, and also that looks good
that's
on because it shows you're interested in like take initiative. So, but yeah, worry about
and
saying.
you should take advantage, right, of like where you're, get your feet wet, like right there. I went to a small Catholic private school. Like this is, you wouldn't have even thought that like there was that opportunity, but it wasn't until I think her name was Maeve Hughes. She was the best. I'll shout her out here because she was the one who got me into even doing LaSalle athletics. And I was a freshman at the time. We were playing club lacrosse. And I was telling them, like the older girls, I was like I'm a freshman, like I want to work in the sports industry. I've been doing it since high school. Like, what is like the best way I can get started? And she was like, oh, well, I work for LaSalle Athletics and I do a camera operator. Like, I can definitely see if they have any openings for you. And I was like, amazing. And then literally a week later, I went to my first basketball game and I was just giving out marketing. Like literally, like when you go to the games, like they have different marketing promotional items. I'm just giving out cups to every student that's walking by. I'm like, here you go. But it was so, but you don't realize that's actually such a big task that they need somebody to fill that because when you're working in sports, there's so many other things that are going.
Yeah, I got this thing where I'm trying to like put all the NFL stadiums and the basketball. Like I went to the which one did I do this year? I did the Jets. That was a dreadful game to watch, but it was nice how like they gave like it was, I guess it was Nick Mingo night. Obviously unfortunately he passed, but they had it was passing on a shirt, so yeah, it's pretty cool because like I don't really like look at that thing, but like it's also like it's part of that fan engagement and fan experience where all right, where the fans like, oh, okay, we get a giveaway for free for coming, one, buying a ticket, and two, coming to the stadium. So and then that must bring people more like, okay, what are they going to give us next? And sometimes you might get some new at the next team or next team you go to, or you might not. But at least now they got to think like, oh, okay, maybe we'll get something again. So yeah, that's pretty cool. What inspired you to work specifically with autism advocacy and fundraising?
Yeah, so my younger brother has autism. He's 15 now, but I was around 11 years old when he was diagnosed. And that experience, one for me and my family was something that we had to just navigate really together because when, autism is a spectrum. It's, I like to think of it as it's so big. Like every individual's needs are different. They're very niche. They love their specific things. Like my brother loved Mickey Mouse Clubhouse for the longest time, Handy Manny. And he loves cars. Like he loves being in the car. He loves having cars. Like there's so many things. When he was diagnosed, I remember being in the fifth grade and not knowing really anybody, that really had a sibling with autism. I think there was only two other girls that I went to school with, and we were even just trying to do like very little things by, selling the little ribbons. And then we in ninth grade we tried to incorporate it into like one of our classes, but the language just was a little bit different back then because it wasn't as, it wasn't as not common, but it just wasn't as spoken about because the resources weren't necessarily all there 10 years ago. And so he really inspired me to get into the field because I always felt that there was a need for individuals like myself to be supporting individuals with autism to ensure that, they're having a fantastic time, that they're getting the same treatment, that, you know, they deserve the same opportunities that you and I get. So to be able to be that person and that leeway to ensuring that they're living the same fun, exciting life as I do, I was like, this is everything that I could have asked for.
How would you describe your role as a peer-to-peer fundraising coordinator to someone unfamiliar with nonprofit development?
So I would say working, well, describing my role specifically is being the biggest cheerleader and your best friend. Like I will quote that. That's like exactly how I think of every day when I walk into Jefferson Health Training Center. That's exactly what I'm thinking is like, how am I one making a difference? How am I two setting myself up for success to make sure that my participants and my fundraisers can have the utmost best event? What am I doing every single day? Whether it's researching their location, can I help them reach out to somebody who they could ask for a raffle item? Like, what am I doing proactively to help them be successful? And when it comes to the cheerleaders, it's going out to their events, being excited, being able to talk upon the people that are supporting them and let them know like this is really what you're supporting here. And with the Eagles Autism Foundation, for us only being established in 2018, 2017, 2018 was our first year, but being established not too long ago, under 10 years ago, I think is one, it's so crazy, but I know from having the backing of our CEO and chairman, Jeffrey Lurie, and our executive director, Ryan Hammond, who work effortlessly together to make this organization what it is so inspiring. And to know that there's somebody like me on the team who is working alongside all of our participants to watch them be successful in their fundraising. And then how are we continuing to elevate? That's a word I love to use when I talk to my fundraisers because your first event isn't always going to be perfect. And I think it's about also setting those expectations to understanding that this is your first one and you can put as much effort as you want into it and you're going to think it's going to go so perfectly and sometimes it doesn't. I went to an event last Thursday and we we have this little device that takes cards. What do you know? The device isn't working. And so it was an immediate pivot and it was like we already announced that we're doing, and I was like, okay, thinking on the spot, what can I do that is going to make up for this? So I went right to their page, I created a QR code, and anybody that had any card purchases, we just did right to the QR, and then they essentially received like the receipt, so there's the tax information. So that was a really, that was like an on the fly, like this is what we need to do to elevate this. And they even like changed the location from last year. And from what we know right now, that event raised around $2,100, and we're still waiting for additional funds that are being put in.
It's definitely a good pivot. And also what I took out of it, where proactive, that's definitely a big thing with fundraising, because you got to figure out who was the previous donors, how can you get the new donors. I know sometimes that can be a
Exactly.
be uplifting task. But like you guys seem like you got the right structure to get the things done, and then also like good pivoting skills, which definitely is essential. But I seen like last year, if you correct me if I'm wrong, you guys made like over like 10 million dealing with autism. I said, okay, look at y'all raising that money.
Yeah, 10 million, which is absolutely, it's crazy. We just announced that we were able to fund 54 community grants in the Philadelphia area, and we were able to fund our researchers as well. And it came out to around 10.8 million. So to know that there is a community that wants to continue pouring their support into local nonprofits that are supporting the autism community, and then also scientists that are making it their role to conduct this research is astonishing to see. And there's such a commitment as well when it comes to our fundraisers to continue building this up as much as they can.
That's pretty cool. It's always taking a village. That's pretty cool that you got the researchers too that get to help you guys out finding more groundbreaking evidence and research. That's pretty cool. What skills are most important for someone working in non-profit fundraising today?
Relationship building is one of my top things. A lot of this role is you want to be able to have connections with these people. And I find that that's one thing I was always really good at. Growing up, I was always very talkative. I was very outgoing, very bubbly personality. But I do think relationship building, a positive mindset, a positive attitude for everything, the ability to adjust with change, which I can find like in my personal life, I might have a hard time doing that. But at work, like I'm able to move along, like move with that because you have to be expected with sports. Everything you change, you never know. So, and then another one I would say, I think this kind of, goes for a lot of roles is just maintaining a positive mindset, but also having the willingness to learn because in this role, my executive director has been very flexible with us to use creativity to expand and do things. So we didn't have a newsletter last year. That was one thing her and I talked about. And we're like, let's start sending out a newsletter. Let's provide people with, the codes, different events that we have coming up, our merchandise, because all of those things support the foundation at some capacity. Even if you're not participating in the Eagles Autism Challenge, you're still supporting in one way or the other. And like I said, 100% of our proceeds do go directly back into the foundations. And those are like my biggest points, I would say. But definitely like willingness to learn and a positive attitude gets you such a long.
No, it's definitely important with a relationship building because that can go into any field where it's always important to have those because you never know who you might need in the future or how they can open up doors that you might even know is like possible of opening, but they might have the key to it. So that's why it's always good.
And usually they do. And this industry is so small that, like you said earlier, you just never know who knows who at all. And I think those are just some of those points that I made. Those are so important to any role, I would say, in fundraising specifically, like that relationship is very key, but, also being strategic and really and I think having an open mind about different possibilities that there may be, especially when it comes to fundraising and the creativity. You should see some of the fundraisers that I've worked on, whether it be a tattoo one or a kids ninja warrior course. Like there are so many, the opportunities are endless. It's just really about who is going to support you through that. And that's what I mean, like the relationships, like you just never know who knows who.
Can you share a story of a fundraiser or participant whose efforts really stood out to you at that event?
Yes, actually, I'm going to really shout out our one of our top fundraising participants. His name's Ed Callahan. He is a season ticket member, has been a season ticket member since the vet.
Wow.
He every week, I know, trust me, I know, and he has gone above and beyond. I've only been in my role since 2024, and to see just the growth over the past 2 years, and then his commitment on top of it spectacular. every Sunday during the season, he is out in one of the lots. He's making food for everyone. People are just making monetary donations. Like he helps, he has a crew that makes all the food for everyone, but he just takes monetary donations. Everybody knows that he supports the Eagles Autism Foundation, whether it be, raffle items that he does. He does an event down in Delaware. We went last year. So much fun. It was a dine and donate. We had drumline. We had Hollis Thomas there. We had our cheerleaders, we had Swoop, just to see that entire community come together. And it's like, he doesn't, events take time out of your day. Events, it's a lot, it can be a lot sometimes, but to see that he makes a commitment during the season when we're here at Lincoln Financial Field and how he's giving back to others while people are giving back to him, to then pivoting towards when we get closer to the season, doing like his own little like kickoff with all of his friends and family. And they're doing a big dine and donate where they're inviting everyone down there to support. And I remember like last year being there, there was a family that I knew from Collegeville, which is up here. I was in Delaware. Like, let's think I was in Delaware. I ended up meeting somebody who had participated in the challenge, who was also a season ticket member, who has gotten very involved this year as well. So it really, it was so impactful to see, all the work that Ed's doing, but even the connections that he's been able to do, like make for me, and also engaging with our entertainment teams, to our alumni or legends, like truly, truly amazing. And this year he actually won Ultimate Fan of the Year for the NFL. So he was in San Fran. He went to the game, and he also, got to be honored at the NFL honors. So truly an amazing thing to see his impact off the field while being one of the Ultimate Fan of the Year.
Yeah, definitely. Since the bet is crazy. Shout out to him. That's definitely really nice for him to do, especially, because a lot of times people like, they try to finesse with the fundraiser, try to take the money, but it's nice that like everybody knows, like obviously he has a man of high integrity where he can 100% goes to the foundation, and then he's help out more ways than one where he can just like sell food and things, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he really is. He's truly one of a kind. He's such a wonderful man to work with, and I truly am just so proud of everything that he's done.
What has been the like most meaningful moment in your role thus far?
So actually a fantastic question. I don't know if I can even, pin one exact moment down, because truly working, I mean, just being in this role has been so monumental to my life and really has opened my mind up, whether it be working or volunteering at our All Abilities clinics, and having my one colleague come up to me and be like, "Hey, Makayla, would you mind going and supporting one of the participants?" And I said, absolutely, absolutely. And this individual was having a bit of a hard time, was just wanted to do it, but also was just like, like a little iffy. So in my head, I was thinking, what can I do to make this experience better for this participant? How can I make this more inclusive? So I ended up going, I grabbed myself a pair of pom poms. We were at the cheer clinic, and I just ended up standing right next to her, doing the entire dance. Like it was so fun. And by the end, like she was really paying attention to me and the cheerleaders in front of her, not so much her family. And we obviously want the families to see their children participate in these recreational activities. That is just providing a little bit of extra support to assist them to get through. To see from the beginning of the clinic to the end of the clinic, and the difference that I saw with her and the smile on her face was it was so great. But there's so many events that I do, and you can sometimes make these moments, and we are able to make such special moments here at the foundation, whether it be surprising and delighting our participants to come to one of the games, to oh my gosh, I'm like trying to think of all of it. But I just think we're in such a really great position that our entire organization really aligns with the foundation, and we're able to make people's day. We invited one of our late game day staff members. He was on our game day staff. He passed away last year, and we were able to send his brothers to the Super Bowl. And it was so impactful to see, because this individual always talked about how
Go.
he was like, I want to go to the Super Bowl. I want to go to the draft. And we're like, all right, well, fortunately, we weren't able to make that dream come true, but we were able to send his family members who cared so deeply about him and still do to this day, that they were able to go out there and represent the Eagles Autism Foundation. So whether it be, something at an all abilities clinics to making, a big give back at that capacity for the Super Bowl, I mean, it's really endless. Like it's such a rewarding job to be able to give back to the families that just do so much for you.
Definitely, I know that's probably definitely a touching moment for them. Probably take their late relative with them as well in spirit to the game, and talking about how he would love this. So that was nice that you guys did. What challenges do you face being a peer-to-peer fundraising, and how do you overcome them? I know you briefly talked about it a little bit. We're learning how to adapt and pivot, but I didn't know if you want to add more to that.
I definitely think that was when I first started in this role. Like I said, I didn't really have much experience in peer-to-peer fundraising. I never really worked in a nonprofit before, but I knew I was really good with people. And peer-to-peer, that's basically the biggest thing. But I think some of the challenges that I've faced in this role were more like the change. Sometimes the changes can, it can be a lot, but also, I want to be there for every single person I can, but unfortunately, I'm only one person. And I think sometimes with the scheduling conflicts, like we have so many events coming up this year, which is amazing. The fact that I'm seeing so many participants want to elevate just from their fundraising commitment of $350. They're like, we want to raise that 2,500. We want to raise 5,000. We want to raise 10,000. I want to be there for them like every step of the way. But I think that's like the biggest thing is I care so much and I'm so empathetic towards everyone that is participating and putting in so much time that it can be a challenge for me to be able to make it out. But if you talk to any of my fundraisers, you would be like, Makayla really, really tries her best to get to everything. And even if I'm not there, I'm making sure I'm there in spirit. I'm making sure another one of our team members can be there supporting. But I really think like that's like the biggest thing is I wish I could be everywhere at once. And unfortunately, you don't have multiple arms to be picking it everywhere. But I know my participants appreciate everything that I can do for them, whether it be getting them set up with their marketing materials, having their QR codes ready, attending the events. Like I know that they're very appreciative of the effort. Last year we were at 7,200 participants. I know. And, being one person
Yeah, that's a lot
can,
of preparation, but it's
can
like heart wrenching and well fed. But
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, so that's good though. At least people they work with know like even though if you're not there, you can always like you're dependable where you make sure that their events still gonna run fine. Whether you send someone over there or get some information that they might need to make sure the event goes well. So that's pretty good. How is digital and social media transforming the way you approach fundraising? I know it's probably made it much easier now. You can just post it instead of having to back in the day. Well, I mean, obviously we were already in the social media era, but prior to us like the older generation, they probably had to go out there and pass out flyers and put it on cars, which is crazy. But I'll let you answer the question.
I'll be honest, I totally respect the going out and door to door. I never really did too much fundraising in my past. I was a Girl Scout, so I was raising
Oh yeah,
money. That was a good skill set for me to at least get here today. But I think that the power of social media is so great that you can easily go on and post, whether it be we're having a match today, you can post a bingo board to allow people to fill it out. But I do think that with social media, I think that really takes away from that personal connection with your donors, because one of the big things in fundraising is, I will beat this down, but is the power of that relationship, and people want to be acknowledged and people want to be spoken to. Like I think this world has become so digitalized that they just think we can post and you just make a comment back like, no, I want to go and I want to thank you for everything that you're doing by seeing you. I've driven up to the Poconos. That's how much I care about this job, is like I know that people that are live an hour away from here are still commuting down here for the Eagles Autism Challenge. Like I'm going to do the same for them. And he goes out to businesses, like one of my fundraisers, he goes out to businesses, he prints out his solicitation letter, he prints out some photos, and he includes the tax ID and he folds it up and gives it to the person who's working, because it's that face-to-face interaction that I think, we kind of miss sometimes in the fundraising world nowadays. But I think having that ability to use social media is super beneficial though. in the case where you're might not have that opportunity to go face to face with a certain person. You have family that may live in Boston, Texas, California that you want to give outreach to and you want to showcase your work, but it also allows you to post and share what you're doing and where the funds are going, and it does really have its benefits to be able to keep individuals engaged. I've seen so many of my participants create social media pages specifically for their fundraising because they want people to follow and see what they're doing, like all of their loyal donors. But then again, at the same time, I'm more of like an in person. I love that face to face interaction. So I think it can really go either way. But I think it really is beneficial in the end. But face to face is always better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also like when you go the extra mile and drive out to somewhere in the Poconos, they're like, "Oh, this person really like cares and took their time, and it's not just sees me as a donor, just giving money away, but actually sees me as like obviously a human being." Which in today's time is a rarity. A lot of people just trying to chase a check or get a donation from someone, but then they might give like the halfway appreciation or act like they care and they really don't. But like driving, definitely you can't fake that. So
Yes,
I
it
know that.
was so great too. It was so much fun. I had such a great day. And it was like I had off that day too,
Mhm.
and I was able to drive out there. So it really didn't conflict with anything that I was doing really in office that day. And I just knew that he appreciated the fact that I even, went out there. But it was so great because I got to, get to know them more on like besides just like being a fundraiser, like I got to know them on such a personal level.
You should build that relationship, definitely a personal relationship now. Is now it's like, oh, now they're wanting to do extra mile, try to get more people to, donate and things. And now they're like, oh, this person really like, I feel really connected to this person, and I want to continue the relationship. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So as we know, typically the sports industry is historically male dominated. What has your experience been working in this environment?
I actually always love this question because it is obviously more of a male dominated. I think everybody, it's you can see that. But um when I was working at LaSalle, my first year, you heard that Maeve Hughes, like that was a woman who got me involved. A leader who was really helping me direct, learn everything. She was a woman too. So I saw, the woman that helped bring me to where I am today. My executive director is a woman. It has been so cool. And it's like it is true because it is definitely more of a male dominated field, but the fact that I think I got really lucky, and by being, led by such strong women who essentially, they worked underneath everyone else, but I was just a student at that time. So it was a little bit different, but I saw the work that they put in to get where they are today. And that's what even drove me even further to be like, no, no, no. I'm not going to let this stop me. Like it doesn't matter, what the comparison is, but I was like, I am going to continue to push and show that I deserve to be here every day. And that's what I did, being at LaSalle, being at the Flyers for 6 months. I mean, I was the only like I was just an intern at the time, and I remember my producer, he showed me how to do something like once or twice, and I went and I was like, okay, this is everything you need, this is a coordinated. I felt like, I mean, I feel like I had to prove myself a little bit, but in my heart I didn't feel like I need to prove anything because I knew I could do it. So that grit and that willingness to, continue to go above and beyond went so much further than, thinking like who was above me. I was like, okay, so it sounds a little selfish, but who else is going to get you there besides yourself, and obviously other people who are
No, I know what you meant. But no, that's definitely big down in the allyship and as well as identity. Because a lot of times, you see people that look like you. Okay, like you say, oh, this person's doing it, so I can do it as well. Which is good to see now more women being working in sports, and now more little girls have a more better opportunity to see other women like working in powerful positions and say, okay, I can do it as well. Which motivates them to find a career in sports industry. So I think that's pretty great, and
like,
especially
yeah.
the way women's sports is growing, particularly WNBA. I don't know if you got a chance to go to Unrivaled. Definitely
Didn't.
great.
I was so sad. Was
Because
in South Philly too, and I didn't get to go.
yeah, because I'm just like, man, this is better than some of these six. Cause like I went to a six game like I think a week before that. Like I went to the Unrivaled event and it was like plenty empty seats. This was the game before Paul George got caught with the 25 game suspension. Right before it, and it was like damn, it's like really nobody here. And granted, it was like I think it was a Wednesday, like right after the snowstorm, but still, it's like you know how sports fans are, Philly sports fans. So you could
Oh,
just yeah, so you could just see like the difference. Like fans are like obviously they're still connected with the Sixers, but it's like obviously with all the injuries as a fan, we're just like but you know, Eagles, no matter whether the record's 2-12 or 11-5, we're always going to be there.
you have to think like also like the fact that like we have flag football, like girls flag football is now a PIAA
Hmm.
official sport. And I remember playing flag football when I was in college. And if there was that opportunity for me when I was in high school, I
Hmm.
so would have played that in soccer. Like those would have been my two main sports. And a lot of my childhood, I watched the US women's national team. I actually watched last night and realized that I feel like I'm still like 10 years old at heart because whenever I watch these women play, even though they're now my age and younger, like the fact that they have made it so far, like that was a dream that I used to have as a child. And the fact that I can still continue to work in the sports industry and be here today, like there are women that walk so I could run, and especially in this industry. And I hope that, me being able to be a mentor and to be some of what these young girls look up to, whether it is maybe not playing soccer necessarily, maybe not playing flag football, but to know that they can earn a spot in the sports industry just like I did. Like you have to work for it. Don't get me wrong. Like it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter, but if you just have that mindset that if you put your mind to a dream, that you can absolutely achieve it.
Have you encountered any barriers or challenges as a woman working in sports philanthropy?
I don't know if there are really any challenges. Like, in the fundraising world, it is more women that are working in this specifically. I've been able to learn a lot from other people and in different nonprofits, whether it be, CHOP, for example. Like I've worked alongside them for their Huddle Up for Autism, and truly like seeing their males like in their fundraising world has been really helpful because obviously, like, I mean, when it comes back to like your brain and how everything works in there. Seeing, I'm very empathetic. I feel what other people are feeling. And sometimes you have to like switch that and you have to be a little bit more strategic minded. And sometimes that actually was a benefit to like helping me. It's not a disadvantage. Like I said, I love people, but to hear from like a different perspective too was also really good because then it helped me like be able to like I can be empathetic here, but I also need to, I need to be strategic and ensure see where this can actually be. So I don't think it was really any like barriers, but like I said, like I worked with all women in fundraising for some time, and then but it's been nice being able to see more of a different perspective now as well.
And like you talked about empathy, that's definitely a great skill to have in a world where a lot of people are self-serving, self-preservation. So that's a great way to help yourself stick out, as well as, like you talk about, listening to different perspectives. I also think that's an essential skill as well, because sometimes, we see a lot of people that are closed-minded, thinking their way is the only way. When we all know that there's plenty of different ways to skin a cat. Don't jump into the chat, but just you just got to learn how to like be open and like, okay, I didn't really think of it from this perspective, but I can see maybe we should try something like this next time. So that's pretty cool that you're able to adapt. But can you share a moment when you felt you had to prove yourself in a professional setting?
Yes. And it's funny because as soon as I saw this question, I was like, I know my exact response. And so when I was a marketing associate 2 years ago in 2023, or I guess 3 years ago, wow, time really does fly when you're having fun. We had, really had launched our international relations in Ghana, New Zealand, and Australia. And I was put to the task to send out a package that was like a 24 by 24 by 24. So you can imagine it's a huge package. And I'm sending internationally. Okay. That's something we didn't even really, there's a whole process that has to go into it. And so I was given the task and I was really, really nervous. I was like, I have no idea how to ship internationally, but they gave me a deadline and they're like, this needs to get there by this day because we have an event. And I was like, okay. So I've used FedEx and UPS, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I had to do background research. I'm like, what can go in this box? What do I need to go into this? Like, what do I need from a custom standpoint to go into this box? And I ended up, I got a little frustrated, of course, who wouldn't, when you're doing something you don't know how to do. And you're like, I need to do this because the people above me are going to, this needs to be completed. And so one day I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to the local UPS and I'm going to have them help me and show me how to do it. And what do you know? That as soon as we got that confirmation code that it made it to Ghana, New Zealand, and Australia, my team applauded me. They were like, we can, not that it was something I needed to prove, but it also, in a way, like for myself, it proved that it was like that selflessness, that grit, that drive to ensure that this package was getting to its respective places. And also the fact that my team knew that they could trust me and guarantee that I was going to go from start to finish. Like there was no giving up. There was no getting, like I was getting frustrated, but it was behind the scenes. So it wasn't anything that I would show. But I mean, my marketing manager to this day, even working here, she's like, that's my moment, and that's when I knew. That's when I knew you were just that type of girl, and that you were going to make something happen, even if it wasn't going to be pretty.
It's always good hearing that from someone that's been in the field longer than you. Like, okay, like you're that girl. So, but no, that's definitely an accomplishment because customs because it's definitely a pain.
Struggle.
So yeah, it's like that thing like, all right, I think it's gonna get our praise will get here, but once you get that confirmation code, it's like definitely some uplifter off your shoulders. Like, all right, thank God the John is finally there, and I don't got to
Hallelujah.
worry about it anymore. And then on to the next thing. And so that's pretty cool. So how do you navigate spaces where leadership or decision-making tables may not always reflect diverse representation?
That's also a wonderful question. I used to get really nervous behind the scenes. Like I used to not want to speak up in those like big meetings where it was me who's a coordinator in the fundraising alongside somebody who's a manager. Like I would say I used to get really nervous, but now I'm like, you know what? Like I think I've learned that every idea is welcomed at the table, even though it might not look like everybody, like might not come from everybody like looking like me. I think every idea is accepted, and whether, you can be creative with it. And I think that's a blessing. But it was definitely difficult, I would say, a few years ago, but I've gotten to, I think, my own personal spot where I feel like I can be open. And I think that comes from your leadership and who's leading you. And they help instill that confidence and that courage to speak up, whether, even if it doesn't work out, which is totally fine. Those things are meant to happen. But mine really comes from my leadership, my executive director motivating me every day to say something, speak up, share that idea, because you don't know where in reality it's going to go. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I think if you don't say anything, how is anybody going to ever know?
Yeah, it's like closed mouths don't get fed. So, you got a great idea. Don't sit on it too long. Because also, once it takes courage to go in the room, you don't see too many representation people look like you. But also it shows like, okay, this person actually, knows what they're talking about and is willing to be able to help and bring it. It's like an asset to us. So definitely understand that. How can our audience get involved and support your work with the Eagles Autism Foundation?
Definitely listen. We have our challenge, our ninth annual Eagles Autism Challenge coming up on May 9th. So super excited to do that. And we obviously welcome everybody, a 10-mile bike ride, 5K walk/run, and a century walk also. Another way to support is, obviously by following us on Instagram at Eagles Autism. And then also, if you see something in your local area and somebody's hosting an event that supports and benefits Eagles Autism Foundation, that's another wonderful way to just get involved in general. It doesn't need to be some big, monetary donation, but sometimes just showing up and, immersing yourself into that community and that environment goes such a long way, because you never know, who you're going to meet in the future that may have, a a daughter, a son, a nephew, a cousin that has autism, and you're going to be able to be that word of the mouth and say, hey, I actually went to this event for the Eagles Autism Foundation. You should really take a look into it. So that's where, that's really where I think, and it's all about the awareness to action of what we do here. So because of their awareness to learning about the Eagles Autism Foundation turns into an action by supporting another individual who may need that support somewhere has, it really does go along.
What's next for you in the foundation?
Listen, I mean, one day I would love to lead, even if it's not in the Eagles Autism Foundation, I think I'd really like to lead my, a nonprofit, become an executive director. That's like more of a 10-year goal, obviously. I think I just started this career 2 years ago, so I'm trying to take it year by year. But obviously I would love to continue learning and continue making my way up in this field, because I do see that I do think this is something I can do really for the rest of my life, because I feel so invested into it, and especially the autism community, having my own personal philanthropy towards it. So, I mean, whatever life takes me, because obviously I've been on multiple different routes, whether it be starting in production to content creation to marketing, making myself as well versed as possible. And I think every bit of those stepping stones has got me where I am today. And this is just the start. And I think there's so much more that I can be. It's just about, taking the time and continuing to learn it's what's going to make that difference and getting me to that next goal.
Just jumped off the closing remarks. Do you want to add anything that we didn't already talk about? And if not, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice to just round this up is, if you can dream it, you can do it. I am a very firm believer in that statement. And I know people will interpret it how they want, but truly, if you set your mind towards something and you think about it and you eat, breathe, live it every single day, like I did, wanting to work in sports, I did everything I could in high school to ensure that this was going to be my life and that this is going to be something that I'm going to feel so good about. And I come to work every single day happy, excited to be here, even if it's a long day that I'm working 12 hours, or if it's a shorter day where I get to go home at like 3 o'clock. Like manifest it for yourself. Really, it truly is so remarkable to do what I feel like I do every day, and now to be able to give back to, an audience like yours and showcase and be an inspiration. Hopefully one day that's really my goal. I want to help continue to inspire the youth and continue to inspire anybody who is even watching this today. My social media though is Makayla Brant. That's my Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Makayla Brant. So definitely, I'm always happy to chat, especially like if we have some time available. I'm always happy to help and continue to encourage and hopefully help people see exactly like what they may want to do in the future.
Nice. And I feel like you're already inspiring, helping people with autism and things of that nature. Just continue to inspire. But appreciate you coming on, Makayla.
Yes, Rob, thank you so much. Like, you don't understand how much of an honor this is to do this and be able to support you and also your audience. So, really excited to see, what more you're going to be able to do on this month. Very excited for you.
Appreciate you.
And, always here if you need anything.